Alright, here's an introductory video on POE. So I'm going to first start off with the interface and the RoboPro software, and this is just going to be the setup. So here is a Robo interface. There are actually three different interfaces you can use with POE that they have. One is an older intelligent interface. It looks very similar to this, except it has a body that goes like this raised part here that goes all the way across, and it does not have a USB connector. It only has a serial port connector. So here's the basic setup of our interface. We've plugged in the power supply here. It's a 9-volt power supply, and we've also plugged in the USB cable from the computer to the interface. Once you do that, you want to check communication with the interface on RoboPro. So if you look at the screen off to the side here, there's a few things that we want to identify in this window. The first one is the environment. This, if you click it, allows you to switch between an interface called the RoboTX, which is a little black square interface. Looks completely different than the Robo interface and the intelligent interface. So if you have those, then you want to be in the TX environment. If you do not, if you're using a Robo interface or an intelligent interface like this one, then you need to be in the Robo IF environment. So both the intelligent interface and Robo interface, which have this kind of clear chassis body, they have this environment icon. The next thing we want to do is set up our COM and USB options. If I'm using a serial cable, so if I'm using the port over here, typically it's COM 1 for most computers, but you want to check to see what COM that is if it doesn't work. But I'm currently using USB. Again, I have three interface options. I'm going to pick Robo interface for mine, so just make sure that whatever interface you're using, you select the appropriate one. You click on OK. And then you want to click on the test button, the test interface icon here. And this is what you're looking for. You're looking for running. If you do not have a good connection, so if I take out the USB cable here, it'll say stopped. This is obviously what you don't want. You want it to say running, and that's usually the first thing I have all my students do, is make sure everything is plugged in, they've selected the appropriate COM ports, and then they click on test and it should say running. This interface window is great in terms of it shows you all of your values of your inputs and your outputs that you have on your interface. So that's what I want to get into next. First, I'm going to kind of zoom in here and show you the different ports that are on this particular interface. Now this might be a little tough to see because of the clear nature of them, but they're actually easier to see in person. But there's a couple ports at the beginning. There's these D1-2 ports over here. Then you have A1, A2, AX, AY, and you have I1 all the way through I8, and then you have M1 through M4 on this one. Now each of the interfaces are a little bit different, but they're all pretty much the same in terms of how many ports they have. First of all, we're not going to talk about the A1 and A2 ports. They use some specific sensors that aren't in the Project Lead the Way kit. We're going to focus mainly on the AX, AY, the I1 through 8, and the M1 through 4 ports. So we'll first start off with the AX and AY. These are analog inputs, and you can see that over here in your test interface window. They give values between 0 and 1023. They're currently maxed out because nothing is plugged into them. The next ports that analog are sensors that can give you a range of values. And some examples we'll talk about examples of those here in a little bit. But we have photo cells or photoresistors. We have an NTC resistor, which is a heat resistor. Those are things that are going to give you a range of values, and it then deciphers it as a number between 0 and 1023. We also have digital inputs, which are I1 through I8, which are right here in the middle. Digital means that you can have two values, a 0 or a 1, and that's it. And then finally we have our outputs, which are M1 through M4. And these are things that are going to be doing something. So we have motors, electromagnets, lamps, solenoid valves if you have the pneumatics kits that go with the FischerTech. But those all would be outputs, and they are then found in these ports here, M1 to M4. They correspond with these here.